Hey guys, it's Jim here, and today is going to be a first for this channel. I guess you could call it a podcast, but for me, it was just a conversation with one of my good friends. His name is Dave Nelson. He's a guitar player, a singer, a great engineer, and he's current frontman for a band called Junro. I'm going to play some of their stuff right now for you. Now, when we started this conversation, we weren't filming, and then we started filming, and we were already kind of on a tangent, so it's going to seem like it's kind of awkwardly going into the topic of music, but from then on out, we talk about everything from are expensive guitars worth it, advice for recording at home, where you should be spending your money if you're going to be tracking a record, just we went all over the place and I had a lot of fun doing it. So if you're interested in seeing more stuff like this, or you like this at the very end and you make it to the end, well, God bless you first of all, but let me know in the comments down below and who you would like to see me talk to. Other people that own studios, I know a few of those guys, other touring musicians, whatever. I will talk to basically anybody who will allow me the time to do so. But without any more of me babbling, you're going to hear a lot of that in the next little bit. Here is the interview I had with Mr. Dave Nelson. As far as the music goes, let's go to that. I did want to ask you, if you're going to be recording at home, all right, and you had a budget of $500, all you have to your name, you have your guitar, maybe you have one or two pedals, but no sort of digital interface or anything like that, and don't factor the computer into the price. What would be your most efficient way to record?
Oh, all right. So I think there's a couple of questions that go into that, right? So
let's do it.
First thing is what kind of amp do you have, right? If you've got a solid state amp, you don't need to worry about that. You can plug directly in, or if you've got a tube amp, you've got to figure that part out.
Yeah. Say it's a Blues Junior. That's a very common amp.
Okay. $500 is
I
tough.
know. It can be done though.
Yeah, it probably can. So I think if I was going to cover everything I wanted to starting off, I'd probably go with like one of those little 2i2s, the Focusrite, right? So you got a two input interface. I'd probably get a 57, and I'd get a Rode, maybe not the NT1As, right? Those are the ones that are not
multi-patterns. I think those start at I forget the model. No, yeah.
I think they're like, yeah,
$200.
I think they're like $300, $200
used.
something around there. Yeah, so I think that and a 57 and a 2i2, and I think you'd be set. So you could cover your guitar, you'd have vocals. The Rode's really just a workhorse, like, and I actually have two of those mics because I love them. And you could really do anything else with that. And if you really got really clever and creative, you could do drums that way too. It would be kind of tough, but you could make it work.
You could.
And I think that's how I would start.
Now, playing the digital devil advocate here, with that save $500, you can go to Neural DSP and download one of their plugin suites for $120, something like that, and those things sound killer. And they're a lot easier for somebody to mix down with. There's less margin for error. You don't have to worry about any sort of microphone placement or phase issues.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think the question really becomes: are you a dedicated guitar player, or are you trying to do other stuff too? Right? Yeah. And I've known plenty of people who just keep creating emails and doing demo versions of the Neural DSP stuff because it's awesome.
It is,
and they're broke. I think that's also a good way to go if you were like, I'm primarily doing guitar-based demo work. Yeah, I would say the Neural DSP stuff kills it. I have two of them. I have the Corey Wong and the Nolly.
Nice.
And they're both awesome.
The Corey Wong one really surprised me. I used the Funk Machine, and that thing is fantastic. That thing sounds so good. I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. Very impressive.
Yeah. I honestly, lately I've been trying to fill out parts of my studio that I don't have, things that cover that type of sound. And I don't have a lot of great clean amps, although I did actually just get a bass breaker a little while ago. That's pretty good for that. But I was using kind of the Corey Wong every time, I needed really nice cleans because I don't really have a lot of amps that cover that sort of range and area. But yeah, it's awesome for any of that stuff, and I think actually we'll probably end up using it on a couple of the new projects we've been working on.
That's interesting. So what are you currently using for your amp as far as well, not your amp, but what are you currently using on your record? Are you using a combination of plugins for your final trackings, or is it all just straight up tube amps going right in through one way or another?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say at this point I've catered my studio to be about kind of reamping. So I've got a couple of amps here, and I just I have them dialed in at this point. So I think the record will be a combo of I got the PRS, the MT15, which is basically a glorified 5150,
Yeah.
um, and and then I've got the orange, the TH30, and I usually end up doing a blend of those. Although to be honest, I really do like the bass breaker. It's really good for that, like, I don't know, like Chan kind of like bright, good like chord distortion stuff too. So maybe that'll get thrown into for the demo stuff. I honestly just been using the Helix, just because it's quick and easy, and ultimately we're going to end up using that for the live setup too.
Yeah.
So I've kind of just been working. Me and my bass player have been dialing in our tones that way, right? So like, if we lay them down, I know his stuff that because he's also using a stomp for his bass tones. His stuff and my stuff will work really nicely together.
Which bass breaker? The 007?
Yeah, the little
Yeah,
head.
that's what I thought. That seems right up your alley.
Yeah.
That seems right up your alley. That has a really good pushed clean to it. Not so much like
Yeah,
that 6L6 Fender like that I like for real cleans, but it's a little bit more throaty. I like that. I like that a lot. I had a Brace Baker 30 for a little bit, but I ended up selling it because the drive on it was just it tried to be a Marshall, but it wasn't a Marshall and it wasn't a Fender. It was just kind of something.
Yeah, I think actually what I've liked about it so far is that I think the distortion works really well if you get it really good before it gets to the amp.
Yeah.
I don't like relying on it for a lot of the distortion, but if I can push the crap out of it before it gets there, it sounds pretty good. And it actually gets considerably heavier than I thought it was going to get. Probably more distortion than I really need out of it, as I'm never really going for that tone when I'm using it. As I have a 6505 plus and the MT15, like I've got plenty of amps that do shitloads of distortion. I don't need a Fender to do it.
Yeah, even the orange. If you have an attenuator, that thing can
absolutely.
get really, really creamy really quick.
Yep. Yeah, I mean I use the torpedo reload for everything, so I crank them and it's going direct in, and then I use either the Zilla Cabs stuff from GGD or I've got a bunch of the Own Hammer IRs as well. So yeah, I have a 212 like an EVH that's got V30s in it, and then I have a Harley Benton 112, which I actually think sounds better than the EVH weirdly, but it's open back, and like because you got the one speaker, it just really cranks nice. But I almost never use them anymore because the IR stuff is just way easier. It's way easier to control. I can get as loud as I want. I don't have to worry about anything. And I mean, the Own Hammer stuff's like $30 for a big pack of them, and they sound incredible. And they're amps I'd never get to own in the real world.
Yeah, it's so scary almost because I've spent all these years chasing after certain gear to get all these different sounds, but then like you said now, under $100. Well, say you get the Neural DSP plugin, and then you're gonna buy some of the like a $30 or $50 worth of Own Hammer stuff. For under $200, you're gonna get tones that we could only dream of that are right. Record ready.
I know. I mean, you and me are even in the position where we got to touch a bunch of gear that most people never even get to be in the same rooms with.
Yeah.
And still, this stuff is just like, it's amazing to think you ever, would have gotten to like play with, a 1970s oversized Marshall cab or something like that. Like, I'd never buy something like that, but of course it sounds amazing on the record, right?
Yeah, and it's accurate too. That's the other thing that's weird, because I remember we were you weren't there because you weren't in that one with me, but we were in the really big studio suite that had the newer API console.
Yeah.
And
yep.
They were like, you can mic up any amp you want, and they had a rock reverb, they had an angle, but they had a Soldano Super Lead 100. And I was like, I want that. Like, I want to hear that shit cranked. I want, because when am I ever going to be able to do that ever again in the rest of my life?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I still have on one of my drives, I still have some of those files from it. I was going back through the Soldano individual plugin from Neural DSP. Granted, the recording of the analog one sounded better, but we're not talking like if the average person heard the two of them side by side in a
No,
mix,
absolutely not.
it's
Yeah, of course
it's
not.
unbelievable how good the stuff has
Yeah.
gotten. And
Yeah.
what is
It's crazy.
the fraction of a price? I feel like it's such a good time to make a record, and I think that
Yeah. Yeah.
I think what people should be really investing their money into, because like we've been talking about, there's so much value with either these plugins or anything like that. You don't need to go the route of miking your stuff up. You can do it if you're an old boomer like me, but you don't need to do that. And I feel like if you spend that money instead paying somebody like you who actually knows what they're doing with the mix to do it correctly and then have it properly mastered after the fact,
Yeah.
that's where the money should be going. Because the studio time, there's really, I don't know, I spent a lot of time in the Capricorn before we left, but mostly I could have done all that at home except the drums. That was the only thing I really needed the studio space for. And I think to this day,
Yep.
I think vocals, it's really useful too, because it can kind of get you in that kind of real, like, serious professional environment. But we're lucky enough where
Sure.
with reamping and all of that, as long as you have a decent interface, it doesn't matter where you do it. Because you can even outsource reamping to an independent person like you or me, or you can send it off to a studio and have it done. But I feel like with the amount of money that you're going to save, not spending it in the studio, doing it the old way, and you should just be investing it in the mixes and stuff like that.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, to that point specifically too. I mean, so I haven't been doing a ton of client work because I've got, the new kid and everything, and kind of been
The
busy
new
with that
kid.
between
The new kid.
the new
This
kid.
is his first daughter he's talking about here.
Yeah. So, we've had that going on, obviously, along with the pandemic stuff. But I do have a client who's actually, we've been chatting, and normally they just come in and they bang stuff out, and they're great, and they're fast, and they're super fun to have here. But we were like, hey, they're far away, and I'm like, why don't we just hybrid do this, right? Like, if your guy wants to come down here, he does drums, and your vocalist wants to come down, and we just do vocals, and then I can trust you guys to lay down a decent DI for bass and guitar, and I'll reamp them here, and we half and half it. Like, what's the point of doing it all in person anymore if we don't have to? One, it saves time and travel and money, and for me, it makes me feel better about not having to take whole weekends doing client work here with people in the studio and stuff. So I definitely think it's a smart way to go. And I feel like, especially in our industry too, there's so much emphasis on like the gear stuff and spending money on gear and buying shit, and you have to have the fanciest stuff, and it's just like, it's really just about knowing like where your limitations are, right? If you're in a home studio and you're buying amazing microphones and your room sounds like shit, it doesn't matter. Your room sounds like shit. Like, it's no matter what the mic is, you're just going to get a better capture of your shitty room, like, and at the end of the day, like, if you can't do that, then don't spend the money on it. Like, know where your effort can be best put, and I definitely think the home studio thing's obviously picking up. I've heard some great mixes from people who have no formal training, and I've heard some shitty mixes from people who have amazing formal training, and it's, you find the right people to do the work with and make it work for you,
Yeah, I only laugh because I thought of school, and a lot of people that have degrees as recording engineers who, a few might not know what a compressor does at all. No.
But they've seen Chris Lord Alge talk about it in a bunch of YouTube videos.
Yes, they have. But that person is certified, and that's why college doesn't mean a damn thing, and it should never be taken seriously. So one thing I'd like to go back, you talked about you have a Harley Benton. I know you have a PRS because I sold you that PRS. And my question...
I've got two Harley Bentons, actually.
You have two? What's the other one?
I have whatever, I never remember their model names. I have a Les Paul Jr., and then I have a Gold Top with P90s.
Doesn't the Junior have a P90 in it too?
It does, yeah, but I actually ripped the P90 out of that one and put a... it's another P90, but it's from Mojo Tone, so
nice.
It's the noiseless. Because it's like my main live guitar, and it is way too loud with a P90 in it. So I had to put a noiseless in because we would be at shows where I'd get so much feedback that I had to turn the noise gate up so much that my cleans wouldn't
Yeah,
work.
you're killing it.
You know, like
You're killing it.
Yeah, because I'm just crushing it. Yeah. So, but I otherwise, other than the pickup, which is not even Harley Benton's fault, it's just that it's a P90.
Yeah.
That's my go-to live guitar.
Yeah, it's just a big old single coil. I mean, that is what it is.
Yeah.
And then and I was trying to explain that to other people when I got the hollow body ES Les Paul that has the two P90s in it. It's even worse because it's a semi-hollow on top of that.
Yeah.
So it's as amazing as that guitar sounds, I can't see a practical like playing out live situation with that guitar.
Yeah.
It would be a nightmare, dude.
Yeah, it's tough. Although I will say, all experiences I've had with the Mojotone noiseless P90 has been fantastic and has just completely solved that issue. And it still sounds like a P90. I don't know what they're doing in there that's making it work that way, but it's fantastic.
What do those run a set?
It's just the one in the Les Paul Jr., and I think it was like 110.
Okay, because I was just looking at, I know Lindy Fralin, because that's my stuff. I love the way that he makes his stuff. I know he makes his set, because I was thinking about putting a set of Jazzmaster sized P90s in a project guitar, and then having that be my kind of, out to gig guitar, because I like the lightness of a Telecaster a lot. And I don't want to have to worry about a headstock breaking, and that's the main thing I have with the Gibson, the 339.
Sure.
So
Yeah, I tried to throw a humbucker in it initially. The problem is it's a dog ear P90, which is difficult to get something to sit correctly. So I kind of like jerry rigged it and threw a humbucker under the dog ear case, and it just like killed the output of it completely because it's just not at the right height for it. And so I eventually just was like, I got to find a P90 that's going to fit and work. And I've had good luck with all Mojotone stuff. I like their stuff quite a bit. And they had a noiseless that I decided to give a shot to. So, yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I've used a few of their harnesses before to no complaints.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so here's your question. And you can't answer it with the tone is in your hands. The guitar, the head, or the speaker, which one is going to have the most impact on the overall sound?
I think it's the head. Honestly, overall this time of kind of doing it, like I can dial a head in to sound pretty good regardless of what kind of amp it is. The speakers, unless it's really, really shitty, like all speakers kind of have their own sort of flavor that you can make work or not work. And honestly, like I've never heard a guitar that sounds like unworkably bad. Yeah. I mean, when you put it next to another guitar, like some guitars just sound awful, mm-hmm. right? But again, like you're talking about, like you were saying earlier with the SLO plugins, like if you put a real SLO next to a Neural DSP plugin, there's some small differences. But if you never show anybody the real, like it just sounds like a Soldano. It sounds amazing, right? And the same thing, like if you're working with a crappy Squier, unless I'm playing a nice Strat next to it, like it just kind of sounds like a Fender, and you can make it work. I think the answer's the head.
So does the guitar really matter at this point? Because I'm going to test this theory. I'm building a very, not inexpensive, but compared to how much it would cost to buy a custom shop equivalent from Fender, it's going to be like a major fraction of it.
Sure.
Is it really worth spending this much money on the guitars, or what is the benefit to it? Because I have my own opinion on why. Like, I justify some of these more expensive guitars, but I also, like, I'd have no problem taking that Orville, that Japanese Les Paul. That has Gibson Bill Lawrence pickups in it, but the pots are Japanese, and obviously everything else is Japanese on it. I'd stack that up against any Les Paul that I've had in from Gibson, and I think in a mix, you would never be able to tell a difference.
No. So I think I've got a complicated answer to this question. So actually up until fairly recently, I have always been I don't really care about guitars kind of guy. I have like cheap guitars. I put things in them to make them sound the way that I want them to. And at the end of the day, like if they do the job for me, that's what they're there for, right? Like I've got this Epiphone SG that I've completely kitted out with all of my own stuff in it, and it plays absolutely horribly. But it's like kind of works for me, and it works for the sound I'm going for, right? And then I have a PRS, like it's an SE, but it's the custom SE, and I literally ripped all of the hardware out and replaced it with all other hardware, and it sounds great. It's my main studio guitar.
Yeah.
And obviously, I have two Harley Bentons, right? And their main selling point is that they're both under $200 and they do what I want them to do. That being said, you get to a point where it's not about the sound of the guitar and it's about how much it gets out of your way, right? Like, yeah, I'm not going to spend $4,000 on a, custom Les Paul, but I understand that if I spent $4,000 on a custom Les Paul, I'm never going to have to think about like, this is intonation's off, or this isn't feeling the way that I want it to. It's just going to do what I want it to do right out of the box. And for some people, that money is worth it. For me, I'm that kind of person who's going to rip everything out of a guitar and put new stuff in it anyway. Yeah. So I might as well, spend it on something $400 or $500 instead. But I do think that while it's not worth the money for the sound, it is worth the money for the peace of mind, knowing that you're paying for an instrument that ultimately performs and lasts the way that you want it to, right? So it's kind of a mixed answer, right? Like, I do think expensive guitars are worth it sometimes, but not all the times.
Okay, I'm gonna piggyback on that because I agree with pretty much everything you said there. But I'll add one thing as to why I think they're worth it. And this is a good example. I had that 335 Harley Benton for a while. I had no complaints with it. It was a decent guitar. I upgraded all the hardware, all that fun stuff. It stayed in tune great. Functionally, it did the job. And I also have the Gibson. I have the 339. The thing is, in Pro Tools, if I'm running through the exact same rig, it's not a gigantic tone difference. I mean, granted, you'd be able to tell the Gibson's the Gibson. It just sounds a little bit better, a little bit sweeter. But the thing that to me makes these ones worth it, the more expensive ones, is it's the feel of not just the instrument and how it feels physically in your hands. It's the feel of like it's almost inspiring because you have like such a higher and it can make you play differently. Because when you're inspired to do something, whether it's play music or draw or do whatever it is, like if you have optimal tools, it will bring out the best in your creative abilities. But then, and then it goes back to your point. The added thing is you don't have to worry about it not functioning. You don't have to worry about it going out of tune, this, that, and the other. And Gibson was a bad example by both of us there because those are the worst.
Yeah, they're notorious.
They're the worst.
Yeah.
PRS would have been a better one, but I mean, the point still stands, and that's part of why I think at the end of the day, like the main purpose where these people are spending like $10,000 on a guitar, I think that might be to me something I could never do, but I understand it, and I used to never be able to.
Yeah, I agree with you. I definitely think, there are times where I'm like, yeah, man, it'd be awesome just to have one of those, like one guitar that I know every time I pick it up, it's just going to get out of my way and let me be the best version of a guitar player that I can be. Right. Yeah. And I think it's funny that you say that it just inspires you to play different things. Right. And it's so like all of my friends growing up who were like huge metal heads, like they all hated Fenders, right? Cause it's just like, it's your dad's blues instrument or whatever. And now like, I think probably 95% of them have a Telecaster, right? And it's just like you just end up kind of transitioning that way where you're like, okay, maybe I didn't see myself with this thing, but, I picked up a player model or, like an old school Tele, and it just felt great. And I played stuff I never would have played on it, and it just works, and I plug it in and it just sounds awesome. And there's something to be said for that. Do I think it's worth $8,000-$9,000? Not really, because I think you can get that with with a $1,500 guitar. Yeah. I think you'd be hard pressed to not have that same exact feeling about an ESP, right? Yeah. And it doesn't cost anywhere near that much unless you're talking custom rates, right?
No, and I think specifically when you're going to talk about Telecasters, and I'll put Stratocasters in the same thing, I don't see any point in spending over $1,500 because you can build your own and have it destroy anything that the manufacturer is going to put out. Sure. And literally exactly how you want.
Right. And the point of those guitars is to be that way, right? I mean, that's why the Telecaster is the way that it is. It's supposed to be mass manufactured, right? The point of it is that the neck just slots in and you just screw it into the back. It's a bolt-on neck, right? It's super easy. It's not supposed to be that there's a difference between, the $400 one and a $5,000 one, right? Yeah. Obviously,
it's in the neck. It's all in the neck, really. But so I have a hard time now. Those ones are the exceptions. And anything with a very simple design like that, that's a bolt-on specifically, I don't think I could ever see myself in the future spending that kind of money on it just because it's so easy. And, that's
Yeah.
one thing that
Yeah.
you're like me. You like tinkering, you like building, you like modifying things. I can't justify it anymore. And I used to be able to. I used to
Yeah.
always think that I had a custom shop Telecaster. It was new. It was like a $4,800 guitar. And it was great. But compared to the one I have now, like when I play that one, there's nothing I miss about the custom
Yeah.
shop one. As a matter of fact, I'd even say this one there, I like the neck on it better. But it's just perspective.
Yeah. I mean, I also think that a guitar is the perfect example for diminishing returns.
Yes.
And it's just that you just hit a certain point where it's
If it's
like,
good, it's good.
yeah, that it's good, and the extra grand is not going to get you that much. And especially now when you see like a lot of these budget companies just knocking it out of the park with these features, like you get. I think some of the Harley Bentons have stainless steel frets.
The
now.
one I
You
had
get
in
roasted
did.
maple. Yeah, you got they have got locking tuners, with the exception of the pickups, which they know people are just ripping out.
No,
anyway.
you'd be surprised.
They're basically stacked.
You would be really surprised. So that model that I got in that you talked about with stainless steel frets, the SC552, that had not the Roswells in it. These had these had the Teslas, and granted, they're not anything that I would buy aftermarket and put in. But I noticed two things with those pickups. First are they didn't have Asian sized pots in them. They weren't minis. They were full size pots. The other thing I really liked about it was there was no push pull. It was just a straight up wired like an old PAF was, and they sounded way too good for a guitar that was $300 with stainless steel frets.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm gonna demo a guitar that's gonna beat that for how much that costs.
Right.
And I don't really like the term good value for the money, or a really good thing like that, because I mean that's subjective and everybody makes different amount of money. Like $300 might be a lot of money to some people with a guitar, but then again, me and you were talking like $10,000 in some guitars. It's like to us we're like, oh, that's crazy. We would never do that. But but I mean the fact that guitar comes that good for $300, it's absurd. It's absurd, and why anyone would buy something from Epiphone when you're not even going to get those kinds of things. You're going to pay almost double in some of the instances. I mean
Well, yeah, but they are pushing them to do that though, right? And that's the best thing about it, right? Harley Benton comes out with a $300 guitar that has more specs than any of the Epiphone stuff. So now Epiphone's got some pressure on them.
Yeah.
And they are actually starting to release some stuff that's kind of like in that vein, right? I mean, they're still anything that's covering that same kind of feature set still probably around the 800 or 900 mark.
That's the problem.
But, I mean, yeah, they're at least getting some of that stuff into a lower bracket. And I think that's the point, right? Where it's like it used to be to get all of those features, you had to pay the money. Now you get all those features, and really what the money is the attention to detail on the neck and the fretwork and, rounded fingerboard edges and stuff like that. And at that point, it's like, you pay $1,500 for a guitar that has all of that great stuff. What's the next $1,000 get you? Because it's not, Grover locking tuners, because the $300 guitar had that. It's not, stainless steel frets, because the $300 guitar had it. So like, what are you paying $1,000 for if you're already getting a guitar that someone paid attention to the neck on? You know?
I mean, at that point, I think about PRS. I think that guitar, the pink one especially, I miss that guitar. I wish I didn't sell you that guitar. That guitar was the epitome of the ultimate like kind of value for me, because it's gonna age really well because it's got the satin on it. The neck on that was fantastic. It played great, and it was reliably in tune, but it didn't feel that much different from one of the core single cut that I played. And that's why when I played it, I was like, how is this guitar under $1,000? And I still...
Well, that's always been PRS's... That's their thing, right? Is that their guitars all feel great. Even the SEs, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I played SEs that sound shitty,
but they play great.
Fantastic. Yeah. And I've also, to that, I played, PRS customs that sounded shitty that played fantastic too. And this hit the right in the middle where you're still getting that amazing playability, but the pickups were totally usable, right? Which is not something you can always say about PRS.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'm having a bit of a thing with PRS right now, and it's nothing against PRS. It's just all the guitars that I've gotten recently are all really big necks, and I used to only play skinny necks. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
went back and I was playing the custom 24, or the CE 24 rather. It's not a custom 24, but I went to play the Gibson after, and I noticed it felt like I was playing a paperclip on the PRS. And when I went back to the Gibson, I was like, oh, this feels so much better. So I don't know. I wish that the bolt-ons and more of the ones in the S2 line had a bigger neck available on them. The McCartys do.
Yeah.
But outside of the McCartys, yours has, that one has not a McCarty one, but I think that's just a pattern regular, which I like the size of that, but I don't like the shredder necks. I can't do it anymore. So actually, I put that guitar for sale today.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. I think I used to like the wizard necks and think they were cool, and you kind of get to a point where you're like, sometimes a baseball bat just feels great when you're chugging some
It does.
chords, you know?
It does. I think
Yeah,
it's one of those things you were talking about when you were younger, or not you, just in general. You know, you looked at Fenders as, you know, your dad's guitar, or your uncle's guitar is going to play country music on. But now it's just like, I hated Telecasters when I was growing up. I hated them. I thought they were stupid. I always thought of stupid Bruce Springsteen, who I still think the guy's a schmuck. But I love Teles, man. I love it. Like it's like
great.
my favorite guitar. Like, and it's so basic, but it just works. It just does everything.
That's why. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
So if you had,
I will say, to get on your PRS tirade, just real quick, they have one thing that pisses me off so bad. Why will they not make an SE with a maple neck? They released them in the UK. They're impossible to get here. They are by far the best looking PRS, right? You get a dark body on a PRS with a maple neck with the blackbird inlays. Gorgeous. And I can't buy one for a reasonable amount of money because everyone needs like $300 to ship it over to me. I don't understand why they won't just make them.
I have worse news for you, by the way. It's not just that extra $300 to ship it over. You're going to pay an extra $120 because of the import duty.
Yeah. Of course, yeah. It's ridiculous, right?
Terrible.
Like Dusty Waring from Between the
I know.
He's got that.
It's sick.
He's got that signature one.
Sick.
It is.
Sick.
It's gorgeous.
Sick.
It's the best PRS has done, and I want an SE version of it, and I want it in the US. And I don't understand why they won't give it to me. I will give them money. I will buy a PRS new, which I've never done before, if they came out with one.
Wow, that's a bold statement.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So, if you ever get to talk to Paul, let me know. You can tell him I said that.
I actually was. I don't know if I was going to talk to Paul directly, but I was actually supposed to go there and do a whole thing and do fun stuff. I still might one day, but this stuff all happened. Cool. But if I ever talk to Paul though, I have so many questions. I feel like
I'm sure he's just going to be like, "Who are you?"
Well, no. But that's going to be the whole fun of it. Is because I'm going to go into it knowing like he's going to look at me like, just shut up. Like, what have you done? You're nobody. But he likes being asked difficult questions. I've noticed that. And I notice so many people, like, they'll kiss his ass and they'll do this. I want to go in with a few specific questions. I have them written down. I'm actually prepared for it. And I really want to see. I really want to see what he says because I want it no bullshit and I want it right on the spot. I don't want him to be able to prepare. But I love the fact that guy's always on his feet and he's willing to stand by his stuff. And I just wish the guy
for sure
would, on all guitars, $2,000 and not give him a goddamn hard case because that's obscene. It's obscene that they don't do that.
Yeah. Even not even just the hard case. Like you got those guys doing the partnerships with Mono.
Yeah,
now.
do
like,
one of those. The molded ones.
Fantastic.
Those are great.
Give me something. I think even the Epiphones do that now. They do the molded cases, and there's no excuse. If it's over $1,000, give me a case. That's kind of my feeling about it. But
now you got me thinking because I was just like, what would it take for me to purchase a new Gibson? And I can't think of anything. Like it would take a lot. It would take.
You know what? This is what it would take for me. They'd have to promise me they'd shut up about Slash for the next decade.
Never gonna happen. You're already never doing it.
I'm so tired of seeing Slash signature models. Like, I used to feel like the conversation is just like, oh, it's and there's nobody new coming up playing guitar and like Rock's dying and stuff. And it's like, it's because you're still talking about Slash, who hasn't done anything in 20 years of note.
They just released the song, didn't they? I haven't heard it, but I saw.
I don't know. I'm sure it sucks. I don't get me wrong. I am a very big Guns N' Roses fan. I listen to them a ton, and I think that they are obviously hugely influential in just heavy music in general. But like, it doesn't mean the stuff he's doing is still good. And I even love Miles Kennedy. Like, I think put him on a record, aside from a Slash record, and I'd listen to it. It's just so boring. It's the same stuff. He's just not doing anything new. And it's like, and then still every year he gets an Epiphone signature, and every year he gets a Gibson signature, and they're like double the price of any normal Les Paul. And you're like, for what? Because it's green? I don't get it.
Vermilion.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Vermilion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing I don't like about that is it has on the headstock, it has his logo on top of it too. So it's not even like you could try and pass it off like you got a Gibson custom. No, you're just some douchebag who overpaid for a standard that has the Slash logo on it.
Yeah.
With
absolutely. I don't know.
Alnico 2 pickups instead of 5s.
Right.
So
Yep.
No, I don't know. I think it would take. Oh man, it would take like a Fender custom color, like maybe a Sherwood green on a 335, and I might do it. But it'll never happen. I can say that. I can say that knowing it's not going to happen.
Yeah. And maybe an affordable 335 would get me to buy one.
Yeah. Well,
because I really love them, but I really don't want to pay $2,000 for one. And honestly, like I don't understand why Epiphone can't use the actual shape, because they have the casinos, which just look super goofy.
Yeah, it's
compared
weird.
to the 335. Like, why are they not allowed to use the 335 shape? I don't understand why they're not. But if you want to buy an affordable one, they really just don't exist. There's something about the way a 335 looks, and nobody else does it the same way.
I know.
So that would have to be my only answer: an affordable 335, or if they started selling the Goddess Les Pauls again.
I had one of those.
Dude, they're so
I
cool.
had one of those.
Just a Les Paul with half the body thickness is really what I want.
Oh, why don't you look into oh no, because they're $1 billion. I was just looking at before I got the Oroville. I have in my kind of reverb filter searches just custom Les Paul and then light LITE as some of my things. And I saw this. I forget the name of the color. It's like a sunset pink, but it's not like a hot pink. It's more like a burgundy. This thing weighed 8 pounds. It had the 3/4 thickness of the body. Looked fantastic. The guy wants like $5,500 for it, and I was like, I can't do it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Can't do it.
My favorite version of a Les Paul is an LTD or an ESP Eclipse. Honestly, I think that with the exception of the pointy horn, they've done everything that Les Paul should have done to be modern.
Yeah.
You know, if Gibson made a Les Paul that was basically an Eclipse, but with the actual Les Paul shape, I might think about buying one.
Yeah, outside of the 335 being in a custom color, or cheaper. Well, and here's the other thing that you got to keep in mind. They used to be made in Memphis, the 335s, the 339s, and the ES Les Pauls. That factory closed, man. So now they're made in the same places as the standards. So that means do I trust that quality control and the price is going up on top of that? It makes me just makes me just want to save up and hope I can find a used Memphis one and hold on to it. But it's a tough thing, and this is where you're going to be mad at yourself here. I had been trying to tell Dave, to people who might be listening to this part of it, if this makes the cut, I'd been telling Dave for years that he needed to move to Southern California from the East Coast, and there was a multitude of reasons for that. Now, about 7 months ago, when I was really, really doing well slinging guitars, I made an order. I ordered 4 guitars one night from Ishibashi Music. And the next morning, I woke up and I saw on the local Craigslist, satin black, Gibson, 335. Thing was mint. How much? Yeah. How much?
I don't know.
I want you to guess, because I'm going to tell you. Obviously, just take a guess.
Satin. What do you know? Do you remember what year?
2013. It was still in Memphis, and it had I think the classic 57s in it, the hard shell custom case. It was just a good, perfect instrument.
Oof. Well, now I'm going to say like 25.
$1,400. Now here's the thing. I didn't have the money for it. And the only reason I told you I bought those 4 guitars was because I wouldn't have bought them if I had seen that the next morning, obviously. But what I did was I called up a buddy of mine, and this guy, this is one of those guys that'll drive you nuts. He'll just drive you nuts. He'll talk more about guitar,
than play guitar, and I'll just kind of like look at him and make him want to look good. He's a really nice guy, right? But he was in the market for a really nice guitar. And I send him this link and I say, if you don't buy this guitar, you're a damn idiot for 2 reasons. First of all, you can resell this on Reverb, and even after their atrocious Etsy fees, you're going to make $900. Or you're going to fall in love with this guitar and you're never going to be able to get it that price again. He went out, he bought it that day, and that was the end of that. I used that video in my comparing the 335 with the 339. That was exactly when that happened.
Yeah.
But $1,400. $1,400.
Wait, why'd you call him? Why didn't you call
Because you
me?
weren't there. The guy needed to sell it that day. He needed to sell it that day.
Oh, okay. Damn. All right. Well,
I know.
Keep your eyes peeled.
Every day. I just, it's all I do, man. It's one thing that's nice, and I've kind of had these automated things that with various apps that I don't need to actually stare at Craigslist all day anymore, or Reverb, or even the Japanese websites that I shop at. I just kind of get notifications for keywords, so I can just do my work and play with my kid and all that fun stuff. But the grind never stops, and I'll tell you, I got that the American 60s, the Telecaster neck, the one that's on the $2,000 guitar. I got that for $300, and I actually just bought the 50s version of it with the U. But the only reason I bought it, I didn't need it right now. I got it because the guy wanted $275 for it, and it was mint.
Yeah.
And so I just bought it, and it'll be here this week. But I think that's going to go on that project guitar I'm telling you about. I'm going to be doing with the P90s and the semi-hollow. But
yeah,
it's just you have to be at the right place at the right time. But you don't need to spend all this money. Like, I think it's crazy, these people that will go to Fender and give them like $800 for that neck new. You know what I mean? Because I think that's what it goes for. I think it's either $700 or $800. It's madness, man. There's no reason for that.
I think, it's just going to be a type of person we never understand. You know, I mean, I used to work at this store at the casino that's nearby here. It was basically an FYE, but they sold guitars because it was in a casino. And this guy came in, and we had this Jack Daniels PV that was like shaped like a bottle of Jack Daniels. It was hideous, but he thought it was like the coolest thing ever. And the reason I got hired for the job was because I was the only one there who played guitars, so I knew how to restring the guitars and stuff when people would break strings and everything. And I was like, chatting with the guy while I'm checking him out or whatever, and going like, oh yeah, how many guitars do you have? And he's like 23, 24 guitars, something like that. And I'm like, oh yeah, how long you been playing? And he's like, I don't play. I think they look cool, and it just like, that's the guy who buys a $4,000 Slash model from Gibson. He doesn't play. He goes to Fender and he buys, custom neck for no reason. It's just not a guy that we understand,
Yeah. And there's a good buddy of mine. He's actually a woodmaker. So I understand he's a craftsman for a living. So I can understand his obsession with spending high end, but he can barely play at all. And he has one of those $6,000 PRS full hollow bodies. And it is gorgeous. It is gorgeous, man.
I'm sure it is. And I'm sure
gorgeous.
If I had that kind of money to spend on a guitar, I would not regret spending
No,
it, right?
no, but I'm terrified. And I'm like right in the mid range. You know what I mean? When it comes to most of my guitars, like I don't have like many like expensive guitars, but I don't have a lot of like cheap ones either. I'm like right in the middle. Like the ES Les Paul is the one that's worth the block. That was like a $4,000 guitar, but I'm terrified to take that guitar out of the rack. Because I just don't want to ding it. Whereas the rest of them, if I ding up even the Jazzmaster, that's an American vintage. I don't give a shit.
Yep.
I don't care. Yep. Whatever.
Right. Or what if you bought a $6,000 PRS and you didn't like it? I think that's the other thing that terrifies me too.
I'd cry, man.
Am I gonna every time I pick it up and be like, was this really worth $6,000?
No.
Like I don't know. I just don't think I could do it.
No, and if you do a custom order with PRS, when you resell it, you're losing about $2,000 to $3,000 off the top.
Yeah,
it's just because it is what it is.
Right, it's a car basically. Like you lost it the second you drove.
It's
it
a Beamer. It's a Beamer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's terrifying to me, and I really like the idea of getting one of those semi hollow body McCartys with the trem, but like you said, I've never played one. They don't make one in production, so I would have to have them build it. What if I spend all that money? Because I think I priced it out to be like $7,000. What if I don't like it? I'm dead. I can't return it. You guys hand built a guitar
Yeah.
I told you to build. I can't return it.
Right.
Oh, it's terrifying.
And I mean, even beyond the custom shop stuff too, just the way that the shops are going. Like I have my eye on this Charvel with a telly shaped body. I don't remember the name of the model.
What
right
is
now.
it, Sandemus?
But like, it's not a Sandemus. It's I can't. It's gonna bug me, and I'm not gonna be able to remember. But anyway, I've been trying to look for one for a while, and I'm like, I can't even play this thing before there's nowhere around here that even has Charvels that I can go play one and make sure I like it before I order it from somebody. It's just not how it works anymore too. So I'm kind of hesitant to spend even $1,500 on a guitar I can't play before I get it.
That's funny you say Charvel too, because I wanted to buy one. I wanted to buy one of the Strats with the Floyd Rose.
I had one.
Yeah.
And it was I honestly, I hate Floyd Roses, and that's why I sold it, because I couldn't deal with it anymore. It was fantastic, but I've also Martin is my perennial example of this. I've played $5,000 Martins that played awfully, and then I've played $300 Martins that
Great.
played amazing, and it's just obviously quality control is what quality control is, but some of the brands are just kind of all over the place with stuff, and it's sort of like, I don't know, 10 years ago, the idea of buying a guitar that you didn't play before you bought it just seemed
backwards.
totally
It's
insane.
backwards.
And now it's sort of becoming more normal. But I still kind of have I feel like in the back of my head, I have a line of how much I'm willing to spend on a guitar online.
The sight unseen, and that's the other thing I have with Gibsons.
Yeah.
Because with Gibson, you don't know what the hell you're getting with quality control. Even if
Yeah.
it looks mint, you have no idea. They're the scariest brand to buy. Online.
Yep.
I can't do it.
Yep.
It's tough.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. Especially since they're just so notorious for it now, that it's one, you're if you're buying used, you're grappling with whatever the guy who had it before you did to it, and then in what condition it was in when he got it. So yeah, I totally feel that.
Yeah, and it was funny because, and the only reason I never bought the Charvels, I've never played one in person. To this day, I've never been in a store that's had one in stock. So I won't do it. I won't do it because, at least with Tellys and Fenders and most Les Pauls, I know exactly what I'm getting. I'm not a Floyd Rose guy, and I've never had a Charvel with a Floyd Rose on it. I might instantly hate it. I might love it. But am I willing to do that? And am I willing to screw the shop? Because what happens is then that's a return on them. That's money out of their pocket. That's wrong, man. That's wrong. I don't believe in that.
Yeah, and I agree, and especially if you're trying to shop local, it just feels even shittier.
Yeah.
But I will say, if nothing else, I had a Charvel. My bass player has a Charvel. We both love them. My problem was purely with the idea of a Floyd Rose. It had nothing to do with it being a Charvel. It was just that I don't solo that much, so the whole whammy and dive bombs and all that shit I didn't need it for that, and it was just such a bitch to restring that I was like, I can't deal with this all the time. So. That's just me. I would say my experience with Charvel otherwise has been awesome.
Yeah.
And I think they got a bunch of big guys that are playing them now that I just don't think that they would really be on there that if they weren't putting out some good quality stuff.
Yeah. And that's funny you say that about the soloing too. I think that, as you get older, you realize your strengths and what you like as a guitar player. And it is fun to rip a little bit, but I think part of the reason I've kept the CE24 is because in the back of my head, it's one day you're going to sit down and you're going to learn how to play like Marty Friedman. That day's never coming. I don't have time for that shit.
Yeah.
I don't have time for it, and it's not a genre I want to actively write in. It's more of I want to do it, so it's not. It's just between the neck thickness and then that, it's just what, I'm going to be an adult.
Yeah.
There's no point in me having this guitar. I have the humbucker guitars that are just fine. I don't love the neck. Just call it a day.
Now, I mean, honestly, I'm trying to go the complete opposite direction at this point. I'm been considering buying a guitar with an Evertune because I do so much studio work. It would be nice to never have to worry about my tuning ever again.
Yeah. Well, those ESPs come with those for $1,000.
I know.
Really good.
Yeah. I've just been waiting. I've been waiting to find the one guitar I just can't pass it up with, and I haven't quite found it yet. Although, as much as I am not normally a fan of metal style guitars, or guitars that are overtly metal, I will say I have really considered buying a Solar.
Really?
Just because I've heard so many great things about him, and he's got those he's got the backorder ones that he has, or the B stocks that are totally reasonable, and they come with an Evertune, and now he's got bolt-on maple necks. they're just every time he does a new variation, it makes me closer and closer to thinking about grabbing one.
I would never picture you with one of those.
I wouldn't either, but I think the white ones with the bolt-on maple neck look just stratty enough that I think you could get away without it being like, oh, he's like a metal guy,
What about Kiesel? You ever thought about that?
All the Kiesels I've ever seen have been like 7-string picnic table monsters.
Go to their website, because if you actually go to their website, because I used to live 15 minutes away from them. If you actually go to their website and see what they have in stock, a lot of it's really traditional. It's just when they're pushing out their stuff for promotional purposes, they never show that. They show the kind of over the top stuff more often, but they have a lot of like more traditional looking guitars, and they make good stuff, man.
Yeah, I'll have to check them out. I've heard great things. That's just always been from shredders.
Again,
which
yeah,
is fine. I'm sure that makes it great. It's just not a
I'm
guitar
not
I'm
sure
super
either.
interested in.
And it's so I've never owned any Ibanez or Jackson in my life, and I like a lot of players that play those, but for me, it's like it's not something that interests me.
I would encourage you to check out some of the Ibanez deep cuts because they have some stuff that's not specifically shredder. I have a Tallman. And there's a small, very vocal fan group of the Tallmans, which is basically their rip on a Telecaster.
Yvette Young.
And it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And I got it in TV yellow, which is my favorite guitar finish of all time. And it's awesome. It came with locking tuners. I bought it used for $200, and it's an amazing maple neck. And it plays awesome. It's fantastic.
Let me see it.
And
Go grab it. Oh, that thing is awesome.
Yeah.
It does. It looks like a bastardized Telly. It looks like it had an accident.
Yeah, it's like a Jaguar meets a Telly.
But that's awesome. They're really comfy. When I played one, I didn't think it would be comfortable, but when I actually sat with it, it was really comfortable. It was kind of like the Mariposa. When you asked me about the Sterling Mariposa, I thought comfort-wise, it was a great guitar. But again,
Every time I played one, actually, I went. That's when I got my the SE semi hollow.
Yeah.
I was going to buy a James Valentine. Right? That's the guy, the Maroon 5 guy. I really like his Sterling signature. Like just the feature set and kind of the way it looks and everything. And I went to a store that actually happened to have one, and I picked it up, and I was like, "This is a garbage guitar."
I didn't say that.
And I will sing that from I have never played a Sterling that didn't play like crap, and they just happened to have this PRS SE custom semi hollow, and I was like, well, that's cool. I don't think I've ever even seen the custom semi hollows before, and I ended up buying it because it was just so great. But to our exact point here, like I would have. If I had ordered that Sterling,
you would have been pissed. You would have been pissed.
I would have been pissed, and I probably would have just kept it because I felt like I made the mistake. And,
you gotta learn,
and I like owed it or something. Yeah, and man, that guitar just played so bad.
Yeah.
I don't know. And since then, I played a few Sterlings, and although I will say I have one of their basses, which I do quite like, but I have never played one of their guitars that I thought played even remotely better than a guitar. Half its
the Harley Bentons. The Harley Bentons, I thought. The only one I liked, the one I liked the most was the Mariposa, but it didn't feel as good as a SE Custom 24. And I mean, I think it was like $300 less than that. But I tried one of the St. Vincent's. I hated that guitar. That guitar felt like it was finished like a Affinity Strat. It just didn't feel very good to me. But
and it's a bummer because they look really.
They all
cool,
look cool. Yeah, they all look really cool.
I like that they're doing unique shapes instead of just putting out Les Paul and Strat ripoffs, which is I really feel like more companies should be doing that, and I want to encourage that, and I want to give them my money, and they just make crappy guitars.
And
it's like
you were so bummed.
You were
so bummed when I told you.
I was. Yeah, I know. I was hoping. I was like, oh, maybe it's just I've had 4 bad experiences, and maybe this one that Jim's got will be fantastic, and he'll tell me to go buy it immediately. And that was not the case. But to be honest, I've played a couple of Ernie Balls that I thought were just fine too. And it's like those guys are so expensive for what they are, and they're not that big of a step up. I think in quality to me, but. Again, those are just personal experiences.
Yeah, I would take anything from the S2 line over any core or any ball I've played. Yeah. And but again, like that's just from the ones that I played. I played a few of them, a Luke, a Petrucci. I did get the chance to play a real Mariposa, by the way. And it was significantly better than the Sterling, but it still wasn't like, I didn't play it like blown away like when I played the core 10 Top Custom 24. Like I played that guitar and I was like, oh my god, how did they do this? But when I played the Ernie Ball, I was like, yeah, it's good. Like it feels like a decent high end American instrument, but it didn't feel great.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like every one of their guitars I've played has been. You look at it and you're like, yeah, the action's fine. And then you play it and it feels like the action is awful. And I don't know how they've managed to do that, but it's like I feel like the strings are an inch off the fretboard when I'm playing it. And then you take your fingers off and it's like, but they're not. It just feels.
It's mushy, right? It almost feels mushy. And I don't know what that is. Maybe it's the nut material. Because obviously, it can't be the actual fretboard or the fingerboard, and it can't be the saddle. So maybe it is the nut. Because I thought the same thing. It didn't feel like clean contact. It didn't feel right. That's very strange.
And especially on the James Valentine too. It was. I know we just talked about this before, but it was a bat of a neck in the worst way rather than a bat in a good chunky way. It was sort of like, I can't believe I have to put my thumb all the way
like
back
a big
there,
SG neck.
You know, like yeah.
No.
In the worst way possible.
Not good. Not good.
Yeah, not good. No. And I was so disappointed, but I walked away with a better guitar, so it ended up working out. But
God, I hate SGs.
I actually kind of like mine, but I literally shaved the back of the neck down. Like I took a rasp to it and shaved it down and repainted.
Yeah, it's a really good guitar if you modify everything about it. Yeah.
Yeah, if you change everything.
And you literally remove wood so that it stops digging into your ribs when you're playing it. Very, very good guitar at that point.
Yep, absolutely. And the only reason I did that was because somebody left it here in high school. And it wasn't mine. So I was like, you know what? It's been here long enough. It's now officially mine. And I didn't spend money on it. So I'll shave the back of the neck off. And if it gets messed up, whatever, I didn't buy a guitar and bust it, you know?
Have you ever had any other gear? Because I've had this happen for me where I've been doing tracking for somebody. And they've either brought it over to record with or they've just brought it over and they never took it back. What's some stuff that you've just kind of had left over that you just ended up with?
I've definitely got really like shitty pedals that people have left here. Like I have like a Nanotech volume pedal that someone left here once. I have more drum heads than you could possibly imagine in the garage. I had a guy show up one time with a custom $3,000 DW kit that he had for 6 months that he left the stock heads on. When he showed up at the studio, I gave him quite a lip about it. So all of those are sitting in my garage. Let's see. What else have I had here? Yeah, it's mostly just crap, you know, like drumsticks and drum heads. And I'm pretty OCD about the studio, so I clean up and I throw people's stuff out. But that was the only time anyone's left a guitar, and that was like a high school band practice that somebody just like, they were like, my mom bought me this guitar and I don't know how to play, so I thought I'd come over, and then they just left it and never got it.
That's interesting, man.
Well, now it's my weird custom SG that everybody hates except me.
Well, as long as you didn't pay anything for it, I can totally accept you having an SG.
Yep.
Okay, so you have... I don't like this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Because everybody's going to answer the Telecaster here. So I'm going to say you can't say the Telecaster. You can have one. Okay, you can have one guitar, and it has nothing to do with you playing. It has to do with studio work only. What is it? But you have to cover. You have to cover everything.
If I have to cover everything, like a stock guitar or like one of the guitars I have.
Stock guitar.
Well, I mean, I think it's gonna be something splittable, right? Like, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I there are probably something like the PRS S2 I think would probably be a good choice, right? So that way I can get, humbucker sounds, I can get some single coil sounds if I need it. I also feel like it's not, especially that particular pink S2 is not, It doesn't feel like it's super heavy or super light. So you can kind of dial either way. So yeah, I mean, I think like a mid-level PRS that has splittable pickups, and that kind of covers a lot of models. So I think anything from there would be probably fine.
Fair enough. 1 amp.
1 amp. Oh, that's a tough
I
one.
know. Everyone thinks the guitar question's hard. I think I'd have a way harder time picking the amp.
Yeah, it's the amp. And it's mostly just because every amp I know that has great distortion has shitty clean.
No, that's not true. Have you ever played a rock reverb in a studio?
Yeah, well, you're right. But I will say, as much as I love Orange, that is a very specific sound.
It is, but it's still great.
I would not describe it as versatile.
No, I wouldn't either. Conceded.
Yeah.
Conceded.
I don't know, man. That's a good question. Maybe one of the Victories. Not the Kraken, but the other
Sheriff?
one. The V30. The V30, I think.
Yeah. You wouldn't take the Danish Pete in the purple?
No. I mean, honestly, I love the Kraken too, but it's kind of useless as a studio amp. Is what it only does one
trick
thing.
pony. Yeah, nothing you can do with that.
But I think the V30 has a pretty good clean actually, and it's got the the same first channel as the Kraken, so it's got some pretty ripping headroom too, for good distortion. But that's a kind of I would think would be an uncommon answer, but I think it's a good one.
No, I'll accept it. The last one of the one pedal. You don't get one for each kind. You just get one pedal.
One pedal.
And it's just, this is assumed you have a way to tune the instrument. Okay, so nobody can get snarky in the comments saying you need a tuner.
All right, it's got to be a Horizon Devices precision drive, because you get a gate, you get that crazy weird compression thing that they have on there, and you get a really good drive, and I think it covers a lot of things that I use all the time.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. This has been fun. How you been all right with Nora?
Yeah, everything's been great. She's crawling and climbing and on top of me all the time and moving all over the place, and yeah, she's doing great.
You wait till she's old enough to have to hold the drumsticks and reach the drums, man.
Yeah. Oh, she's definitely going to be into music. Although recently we found out when I just am singing, she just cries. So,
that's terrible.
That's a little disheartening.
No, that's really funny, because my kid was like that with my wife for a long time. Whenever my wife would sing, she'd be like, "No, I don't like it. You need to stop." And I'm like, "Don't say that to her." I'm like, "She's not gonna like that." But
right. And I'm like, "You got to get over this. We're everyone's a singer around here, and
deal with it."
And we just sing about stupid stuff all the time, so you're gonna have to get into it.
Yeah, that's the fun transition is you start singing. Oh man, if you could hear some of the songs that I've sung with my kid. Oh my god,
dude! I thought about doing an album, of trying to record them and then turn them into real things. I think it'd be a fun album to do at some point. But,
so basically, do what Blink-182's entire premise was, except fully commit and actually sing the lullabies on top of it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's make a pop punk record.
Not even lullabies, just like the real dumb stuff, like little 15-second tracks, like full production. I think it'd be awesome.
You might be onto something with that. Maybe that's what we should be doing, because people have no attention span anyway, right?
No, yeah, and I mean they're literally she just really liked this dance we were doing while I was holding a plate of bacon and sausage, and I said, "Do you want some bacon? Do you want some sausage?" And we just did you could do a whole thing. You could go 30 seconds. It'd be fun. You immediately can pick up on it. I think it's a good idea. And now I've just shared it. So
no. The sad thing is probably that's already been done.
Yeah.
The point would be that would be the thing that got you famous, and all of the hard work and the actual passion that you put into music would ever be acknowledged. You'd be the bacon, sausage, bacon, sausage. You'd be that guy for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
That's the problem with me.
Part of me would love it. Part of me would hate it.
Yeah, that'd be tough, man. I don't want anything to do with it. I almost just started singing some of the songs. They're embarrassing. I know them by heart. I have a lot of very extensive songs that I've sung since my daughter was 1.5 to 2 that we still sing. That not stuff you want to put on the internet. Not stuff you want to put on the internet.
Yeah. I also think it takes a level of commitment to trying to you come up with them in the moment. They're very stupid, and then you have to sit down and actually work with it. And
God no. It's just I only remember them because I've sung them in a certain way so many times, and it's just It's second nature. And now my wife sings them. I'm like, yeah, it must be a good song. You know it. You know.
Yep.
But yeah, it's fun. You got a lot of fun heading your way, and they become teenagers entirely too quick. That's the only thing you have to worry about.
I don't know, man. I at this point, I wish she could talk.
You say it. You say that.
I know I say that, but like sometimes when she's just screaming for no reason, and
they're gonna do it anyway. She's gonna do it anyway. She's gonna do it.
I know.
Okay,
she is.
I'll give you.
But I want a reason. I just want a reason.
Perfect example. Okay, my kid this morning, she wakes up hysterically crying. We know the reason. She has to go to the bathroom. She knows she has to go to the bathroom. So what does she do? She decides. First of all, I'm going to throw a fit and piss everybody off because they got home at 2 o'clock in the morning from their gig last night. And my parents were here with them in case anybody's listening. Like, we didn't just leave the baby at home. So we wake up and she throws this fit and she's like, I have to go to the bathroom. She's like, so just go sit on the potty. Instead of doing that, just insufferable screaming, for the sake of doing it, she just starts on the ground just shaking right on the bathroom floor on the carpet. And we're like, why are you doing that? Like, you're old enough to know you have to go to the end. It just doesn't matter. And then the fit just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Sometimes the thought that you're having right now, that once they're able to talk, you'll be able to get things a lot smoother.
To reason
no,
with them.
it actually will get worse because they will understand why they shouldn't do things, and you can even communicate with them. But they're going to do it anyway, and it's just going to make you even more mad. But I mean, all in all, it's the best thing in the world. It's by far the best thing in the world outside of playing on a stage. It's just pretty cool too.
Yeah, no, it's definitely fun. It's been a good time. It was a little rough in the beginning, but we're headed into fun moments, and she's so happy, which is awesome. And like she wakes up from naps, and you go in there, and she's just like beaming at you, and it's the best thing.
Yeah, it is. And I could talk about that all day, but I will spare you. You don't need it, and nobody else needs it anyways. But this has been a lot of fun. I'm gonna I gotta actually start cooking for the little one right now. So if you want, man, I think this would be something fun that we could do, even if we don't do the video, even if we just record the audio. I feel like this would be something just fun to do, and go from there.
Let me know if you do if you put it up and people give a shit and want to listen to it. Yeah, I'm more than down.
Yeah. Okay. And then the other thing I will say is I'm gonna link all your stuff into the video. Whether I'm not sure if I'm gonna clip it because I felt like this actually was decent enough, most of it, where I could just do a full on post of the whole thing. But if there's anything that you'd like to tell people, I mean, obviously Dave's an engineer. He can help you make albums. We'll have all sorts of links and stuff like that down below if you're interested in sound samples. But anything you would like to say to self-promote or anything like that?
Sure. I mean, if you want to check out our band, it's Junro. It's Junro. You can check it out on Spotify or YouTube Music or wherever you get your music. As far as the engineer stuff goes, I do a lot of editing. I do a lot of reamping, and I do mixing. I don't do mastering, but if you want to reach out and talk about anything you got going on or projects you got, whatever, like I'm always available. And you can just email me at dave@eodstudios.com.
Perfect. All right, so I have full availability to post a clip of your band's music without getting copyright stricken, or no?
I'm gonna say yes.
I know, but
I don't know how to make sure that that's
no.
Okay.
But that's what I'm curious about. Do you have it registered? Some of the old the GPT stuff.
Yeah, I've got the Junro stuff registered too. I think through DistroKid it I'm not sure.
See.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, it's not. We're not.
Well, I know that we're claimed through DistroKid, but I don't know what it'll do if it finds somebody else doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm not sure because there's like really big bands in Japan. I could play like a minute of their song, and I won't get a flag or anything. But if I play 3 seconds of a popular English song, and my whole video is just like, you're blocked on YouTube, you're off the internet. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, Paramore! Like I didn't mean it.
Yeah. So it says one of the features is YouTube Content ID. Get notified and paid if your music is ever used in any YouTube videos.
Oh, so you'll get paid for doing something that you already worked on. So I don't care. That's fine with me.
Yeah. Actually, I don't. Yeah, I'm not currently set up for that, but I'll just do it.
Well,
anyway.
You should do it anyways, because who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe this does become a regular thing. I think it'll be a lot of fun, and even if we just kept it to an hour, just talked about some music. There's more I want to get to, but I mean, time is time. I know you got your family to get to. Tell Carolyn I said hello, and to baby
Will do.
Nora and all of that fun stuff as well. So yeah, it's been fun. This has been Dave Nelson, one of my good friends and the owner of that pink PRS that I sold, and I wish I didn't.
Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate
No
it.
problem. Take it easy, man.
I had a lot more fun doing that than I had anticipated. And when I asked Dave if he'd be interested in doing it, I wasn't exactly sure what we would talk about, but it really was just normal. It was just a normal conversation about music and about gear and what's important to us. And I learned a little bit about, kind of how he's doing things right now and just little eye-opening stuff. So it's going to be where I'm going to end today's video, the longest upload in history that wasn't a live stream. Leave a like if you liked it, if you made it this far. Other than that, I'll see you tomorrow for a regular guitar video. Take it easy, you guys.